Good evening, everyone. Uh, I see the time is 5:30 p.m. I'd like to call this regular council meeting of the Village Council of Harrison Hot Springs to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that our meeting tonight takes place on the traditional territory of Stahelas. There's no public hearing scheduled tonight. I'll proceed to item 4 on our agenda, introduction of late items. Are there any late items to introduce this evening? Seeing none, I'll move to approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Fatcho, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion on the agenda. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that is carried. Item 6 is declarations of conflict of interest. I will declare one this evening. After discussing this with the village's chief administrative officer and corporate officer, I'm declaring a non-pecuniary conflict of interest regarding agenda item 15B. In the fall and winter of 2023-24, prior to being elected mayor, I signed a letter of support regarding the proposed development at 889 Hot Springs Road. This letter of support was used by the proponent when bringing what I understand to be an application similar to tonight's application to council in February 2024. As chair of this meeting, and to avoid any perception of bias or not being amenable to persuasion or having a closed mind, I'll recuse myself from this meeting when item 15B comes before council. Item 7 on our agenda is adoption of council minutes. Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that motion carries. Item 8, business arising from the minutes. Is there any business arising from the minutes tonight? Seeing none, we'll move to item 9, delegations and petitions. And we do have a delegation tonight. Maria Gorlova and Dave Morris from the Kent Harrison Search and Rescue. Please come up to the podium, and I think the presentation is all spooled up ready for you.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Talon and Council. We wanted to start off by thanking you for having us here this evening. It's really directional. We are, we want to thank you guys for having us here this evening, and we're proud and honored to be here, and also proud to be volunteers of our community. We call ourselves unpaid professionals, but we truly are volunteers. We do not get paid for anything you're about to see here today, or the acts of what we do in our community. Yeah, anyway, so we'll start with introductions. My name is Dave Morris. I am the Vice President of Kent Harrison Search and Rescue. I've been a member of the Search and Rescue community for 5 years now.
My name is Maria Gorlova, and I've been with Kent Harrison Search and Rescue for 6 years. I'm a search manager as well as a team leader, and I have been for a couple of years now. We'll give you a little bit of background information about what we do and how we serve the community. Each year, we respond to about 60 to 70 incidents in the community. Our region covers all of the area around Harrison Lake, as well as Agassiz, going all the way to the north side of Mount Shiam. Each year, locally, we respond to approximately 3 to 5 drowning incidents, and a multitude of our searches involve some sort of underwater recovery or search component. Our team in general, we have 13 certified Swiftwater Rescue team members, and a requirement to be a Swiftwater Rescue team member, you need a minimum of 20 hours of annual practice. So that's a combination of training and responding to incidents in Swiftwater. Swiftwater is just moving water. So our Chehalis River and the Fraser River, they both qualify as swift water. We also have 4 certified ice rescue team members. This year, we were called out to an ice rescue, those of you that may remember the incident at Grace Lake. And we also have 4 certified individuals that are able to do flat water vehicle in the water rescues. We respond to those every couple of years at Harrison Lake. We also have 7 boat operators that have SVOP proficiency, so that's small vessel operators, and 13 other boat operators. We do a significant amount of our tasks happen on Harrison Lake and Harrison River. In the last 12 months, KHSAR has responded to 23 water-related incidents. I think it's actually 25. Looks like a 23. These are some images of the types of tasks we do locally. This year alone, we have responded to a drowning in the Chehalis River, as well as Grace Lake, and most recently, the Harrison Lagoon. And our members have also responded to multiple calls for mutual aid from other teams in the Fraser Valley, and that have all required the use of our underwater camera to search for and recover drowned individuals. These are some additional photos from our water-related incidents. Some of you may recognize the news footage from the incident at the lagoon. Both Dave and myself were involved in that task, and you can see us there in the top left corner, huddled under a blanket, trying to operate this camera that we brought to show you today. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, so if you want to pull out the camera. So currently right now we do have an underwater camera we do use. It comes with about a 15-foot pole. You'll see the pole that I have here today. It's got a little bit of a flexible arm that we attach the camera to. Now the camera is, I'll take that camera from you. So this is the camera that we used in the recent recovery on Harrison Lake. And the camera actually attaches to the end of this pole. The pole is then inserted into the lake and circled around until we find what we're looking for. So the reason why we were underneath that blanket is because the camera is actually projected onto this tiny little 4-inch screen you see here. It's not a color screen, it's just a 4-inch screen. So you can imagine the fatigue that happens when we're trying to watch footage as it moves through this camera. And with the challenges that the lagoon offers is the seaweed and all the stuff at the bottom, it becomes very difficult to kind of manage that. Sorry. So yeah, so this is the camera here, and when we put it on the end of the pole, it's got a little kind of adjustable head on it. The problem we run into with this camera is it's outdated, it's kind of broken, and we have to view it on this tiny little screen. So this is what brought us here today. We wanted to, first of all, explain what we did, how we serve our community, and second of all, we wanted to show you the equipment that we're currently using now that is just getting to the point where it's taking us too long. As you know, when we did that certain rescue out there in the lake, we spent almost the entire day there, for those of you that were around. We're hoping that after this, we can acquire a little bit of a more technological device that's going to allow us to get into that lake quicker, faster. We probably could have done it the night before. We were out the evening before with this camera, but it doesn't work in the dark. So we had to come out the next day. Obviously, this causes a lot of disruption with the community, with the city, you know, with tourists in the area, trying to protect them from what we're about to do. So I'll hand it back over to you.
It's also very convenient that majority of our drowning callouts also happen during tourist season in the village. Just a couple more things to mention about this camera. So Dave and I right now are probably the most experienced underwater camera operators on our team. We've become very intimate with this tool. The field of vision is very small. So if you see the picture on the slide there, that is what it looks like underwater in the lagoon. There's very limited lighting provided by this. There is a small light on it, which makes night operations impossible, but also just viewing things underwater is not clear. We cannot see much at a time. So it takes hours of scanning, doing grid searching back and forth in quite a large body of water to be able to locate something. The camera actually also broke a little bit. There's a spring on the end of the pole, so it does not stay rigid anymore. It also takes two of us, so one person to operate the camera itself and the second person to be looking in the viewfinder and kind of telling that person, go left, go right, pull it up from the floor, go lower. This is what I'm seeing right now. So the person that's actually operating the camera is not able to have a good idea of what it is that they're looking at. To do both would be impossible, as just operating the camera is a very physical job. There's another example of footage. Oh, I think this is a video. Oh, we can't play it.
A video. Anyway, this was a video, sorry, this was a video we were going to provide to show you, but I'm not sure if the video portion is working, but you can obviously see the clarity of that device and the reason why we're here today.
This is also quite outdated technology. One of the reasons why we're here is that we're actually not able to repair or replace this camera anymore, as they don't make parts for it or service it. So that kind of brings us to why we're here today. We want to kind of share what it is that we do, the tools that we use, but also come to you to ask to help us to fund a new device. The device that we're interested in is getting a underwater ROV, which is more of a drone that works underwater. Recently, our team became certified in RAPS, drone operations. So this is kind of right up our alley as well. Some benefits is that this just takes one person to operate. So by having Dave and I pulled off of a task to operate this camera, you're removing a search manager, as well as a Swiftwater technician, a team leader, a rope tech member. All of these other vital roles that we provide to our team, we're pulled off of to operate a camera for up to 10, 12 hours at a time. This new camera that we're interested in has about 4,000 lumens compared to about the 900, I think even less actually, that are on this one. It also has a 100-meter tether. So we can stay stationary while the camera is searching and doing majority of the work in both flat water and swift water, which is very helpful. It's also able to run for about 4 hours at a time, so we don't have to lug as many batteries as we do with us. Part of the challenges we had on lagoon tasks and other tasks is keeping ourselves stationary while we're searching an area. So if we find something and our boat or our vessel is moving, it takes an hour, sometimes 2 hours for us to get back into that exact position to locate what we have seen. This ROV that we're also interested in has a claw, so it has the ability to move objects or place something as a marker underwater to help us be able to get our bearings when we're looking through the viewfinder. I actually forgot to mention. So as a search manager, being inside of our command unit, you don't really get to see the operations that are happening in the field. This new device provides a live streaming component. So back in the command station where management is working and planning ahead or trying to guide or instruct our field members, being able to have live view of what is being seen by the teams out there is absolutely crucial. Sometimes we're just sitting in the dark and we're not sure of what is happening out there.
So these are some of the features about the underwater drone. It works in -12 to -40°C temperatures. It's got a 100-meter lanyard on it, so it is driven with a tether, so it can go up to 300 feet deep. And it pre-floats in the water, has about a 2 to 4 hour battery on it, and it can travel at 1.5 meters per knot. That's what it said. Again, Maria mentioned it. It is remote controlled, so it's controlled by one individual. The cost of one of these drones, I think we're at the end here, but yeah, the cost of one of these drones, of this particular drone, is between $2,500 and $3,500. What I will add is that again, we're unpaid professionals. We even donate our own money and our own kilometers back to our search community so that we can continue to operate. So 90% of our funds come from gaming grants or grants from the government or, or yourselves or local community members. We got Mr. Allen here with us today who's donated quite generously in the past. But yeah, that's why we're here today. I will tell you, I do wear one more hat. I'm the director of BC Search and Rescue for the Fraser Valley. So I have 6 other SAR groups under my portfolio who stand in front of their local communities each year and ask this exact same request. These are extraordinary individuals doing extraordinary things every day for our community. So with that, I just want to thank each and every one of you for allowing us to come here today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Before you leave, I'm presuming the pitch here is for council to support acquiring the drone or the underwater rove equipment. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Well, I think you make a compelling case, and I think you'll find a lot of sympathetic people on council tonight. Can I ask, for my own information, how is it that the village presently supports search and rescue right now? Can I get a little bit of clarification? Is this one of our contributions or annual funding, or how is this done?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through our the boat launch parking lot through fees, and I do believe it's $2 per, $2 or $3 per ticket. It does get compiled, and I think we're submitting about $6,500 a year. It is, staff is reviewing our pay parking and also boat launch parking, and there's perhaps an opportunity to up that contribution in future, but that'll be, it won't obviously help today with what the ask is from search and rescue. However, in future operations and purchase of additional equipment, hopefully the village can contribute a little bit more.
Thank you, CEO Cook. Any sense of how long that kind of contribution rate has been in place? Is this a new contribution rate, or has it been in place for a long time and not touched? Just a curiosity. Corporate Officer?
Thank you. It's a portion of the proceeds from all boat launch passes, and the last update was in the spring of 2023.
Thank you. Councillor Fatchett.
Yeah, prior to that, Your Worship, I think it must be at least 20 years we've been contributing through the boat launch towards search and rescue. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for the presentation and to thank you and your colleagues for the great work that you do for our whole area. Just to, I didn't quite catch, but is some of this information, whether by letter form or you're doing a formal presentation to the FVRD as well? Or are you just going to send a letter of request?
Our intention is to also present to the District of Kent.
I'm not sure how to, whether we have to waive the rules of procedure, but I would like to suggest, Your Worship, that we take this forward to our budget deliberations in regards to the funding for this. Obviously, it's a very important piece of equipment that could save a life, or at least recover a body, where I know in the past, many years ago, it took 4 days before the unfortunate person was found in the lagoon. But that's my request. Thank you.
Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talent, for you to our presenters. Thank you so much, not only you two, but for your whole organization who contributes so much to the community. And I speak from my heart as a retired emergency services worker. So, one question, this underwater drone, how deep can it go to be capable? There are some pretty deep areas in the lake. So do you have any information or stats on that? Thank you.
Yes, so the tether on the ROV is 100 meters long. So in theory, it can go to a depth of 100 meters as long as the temperature doesn't go below -10 degrees Celsius.
Thank you. Nothing further, Mayor Talon?
Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. And thank you, David and Maria, for your presentation. You know, as someone who spends a lot of time on the lake, probably doing some stuff I shouldn't be doing, it's always nice to have a safety blanket of knowing that the SAR is there. And these folks are silent heroes. You never want to need SAR, but when you need them, we've got heroes that we can call. And I think we ought to support them. I think we should support them immediately. I think we've had a good year and we can find some in surplus for this money. So perhaps I have a motion, but first a question. Are these in existence in the other organizations that you have? Is this best-in-class equipment that others have already?
Yes, currently right now there's a group in Penticton that carries one. So we've researched it. I mean, they range from 3,000 right up to 17,000. But as you can imagine, 17,000 is a lot of money. And that's kind of it's more of an untethered remote controlled one. So this is the one that kind of best suits the environment that we work in. We know there's some deep spots in the lake, but for the most part, I think we're working within the limitations of the equipment we have. It's certainly going to go a lot further than the 12-foot extension we currently have.
Thank you. So Mayor Town, I'll just continue. Should we have a motion today to support this immediately for immediate purchase? Perhaps we can share it with Kent, the District of Kent, and go halves with them. I'm happy to do a motion if you like.
If I understand correctly, Councillor Schweinbenz, you're putting a motion forward now to fund, you said $3,500, is that correct?
That is correct.
The fund up to $3,500, the acquisition of this underwater drone out of surplus. And does that restate your motion fairly?
Thank you, Mayor Town. Sure. Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Faccio. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Although I am completely in a position to want to support the request, I do think it would be prudent. Presenters have indicated that they will be presenting to District of Kent. I am cautiously thinking we should wait until after that presentation, and then perhaps we could have some discussions with District of Kent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. CAO Cook, comment.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just in the thought of expediency, and I respect what Councillor Vital is doing, is what we could, or trying to do, is what we could do is we could get a motion of council up to a certain value, and then once SAR has an opportunity to speak with Kent, perhaps that, that frees up at least the funds, and then whenever we decide, or whatever Kent decides, we could split it. It's just a motion to go up to $3,500. It's just a thought.
Thank you, CAO. Do we need to amend the motion? Councillor Schweinbenz?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Talon. Yeah, I'll be more specific than happy to have immediate help for these folks up to the amount of $3,500. Hopefully that gets you started to order one for this year quickly. These folks are on the front line. We are on the front line of the lake. I think we ought to do this. It'll help our fire department as well. They can work in conjunction with them. So that would be my motion. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Thank you very much for your presentation. This is a slam dunk. This is something we should have done maybe before they've had to come to us. Let's just put this motion on the floor and get it passed, get them their underwater camera. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. We thank you for coming out this evening, and we thank you for your service and dedication to our community, and yeah, for rescuing people on the lake that get into trouble. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
That takes us to item 10 on our agenda, correspondence. Could I have a motion to receive the correspondence? Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on the motion to receive the correspondence. All in favor? And that carries. Business arising from correspondence. Is there any this evening? Councillor Schweinmans.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. It's just one letter tonight. It was curious to see who it was addressed to, so hopefully the administrators at the UBCM can correct that. But I wanted to make comment on this. This was, I think this happened before my time. I wanted to congratulate, I believe it was Councillor Vidal who spearheaded this. This was important to you, important to a lot of people in this community. It's hopefully will bring a lot of service to the community for you. So for you to be a leader in our province and to spearhead this, just wanted to congratulate you and thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinmans. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon, and thank you, Councillor Schweinmans, for that acknowledgement. I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to one part of the response that I found very encouraging, and part of the concern is that because so many women these days do not have access to primary care physicians, it was difficult for them to get a requisition for a mammogram. So I was very pleased to see in the response, and it states, in addition, the Ministry of Health and BC Cancer are working on a project to support unattached patients with increased access to the provincial screening programs. I am very encouraged by that. Thank you, Mayor Talon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Seeing no other business arising from correspondence, we'll move to item 12, reports from councillors. Who'd like to start us this evening? Anyone? Councillor Faccio.
Just a brief report to Your Worship. On Thursday, I had the meeting with the Accessibility Committee group, and we're bringing forward several items for the upcoming budget deliberations regarding how to deal with making our community more accessible for everybody. So there's several things coming forward. One of the major ones is to be looking at the cost of replacing, not totally replacing, but replacing the Moby mats with a different type of approach into the onto the sand, and the Moby mats can still be used to extend that into the water as well. So that's coming forward to the budget discussions with some other items. So it was a very good meeting, and I applaud the committee for the work they're doing to make our village of Harrison Hot Springs more accessible as the time goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. A little bit of a lengthy report, but I'll be as quick as I can. Thank you. Monday, October 27 to October 30th, I had the opportunity to attend with the other senior executive members from Lower Mainland LGA on an advocacy mission to Victoria, where we were able to meet with some of the ministers. What we found, a much more relaxed environment than the usual, kind of time restrictions that we find at UBCM. I'll just quickly go over the issues that we were able to raise with the ministers. One of them was regional district reform. And the province had committed to regional district legislative reform in 2022, but that work has never been completed. And since that time, over 160 UBCM resolutions have called for amendments to the Local Government Act with consistent requests for comprehensive modernization of regional districts. We also had the opportunity to meet with the minister and once again discuss a provincially appointed ethics or integrity commissioner, mandatory codes of conduct, conflict adjudicators, and punitive sanctions if need be. What we did hear was that ministry staff said the province is currently looking into exactly that mandatory code of conduct instead of each council developing their own. Mandatory requirement for third-party investigators or integrity commissioners to resolve disputes and issue punishments instead of councillors voting on whether to approve investigations or to sanction one another. Another topic was aligning the by-election provisions of the School Act with those of the Local Government Act. Apparently there is quite a difference between that. I wasn't aware of that. That was very, very well received by the minister, who seemed to indicate that that was an easy fix. And one other subject was the request from our members that there be a provincial lobbyist registration. Because this would enable municipalities and regional districts to use the office of the Registrar of Lobbyists for BC, or it would enable municipal councils and regional district boards to establish, monitor, and enforce lobbyist activities within their jurisdictions, which was parallel to mechanisms that are currently unavailable under the Lobbyist Transparency Act. We also met with the minister on a subject of enhancing housing stability through preventative measures and supportive programs. Housing instability and eviction risks remain major challenges across BC and throughout our membership. This high cost of housing has led many low-income families to reside in unsafe and unstable accommodations, heightening their exposure to various risks. So our request was that the province, in partnership with local governments and nonprofit housing providers, expand programs to reduce housing vulnerability by expanding portable rental subsidies, enhancing support service, investing in preventative strategies, and providing direct grants to local governments to improve housing stability. And bear with me, Mayor Tallon, just a couple more. Another subject was simplifying access to public land for housing. Our request was that the province establish a streamlined pathway to expedite the public-owned land grants and related title reverter process for public, attainable, and affordable housing applications, while still upholding and recognizing the commitments of the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. Another subject, unmet demands on social and community infrastructure as a result of provincial housing targets. Our request was that the province focuses on strengthening complete communities and making historically significant investments in schools, community mental health, and transit to accommodate the mandated housing growth. We also requested that the province provides long-term, stable, and predictable infrastructure funding to municipalities to address the challenges associated with the increased housing density requirements. Equitable distribution of emergency shelter beds. And even though this isn't directly related here to Harrison, I do want people to keep in mind that my role on Lower Mainland LGA is to represent our members all the way from Pemberton up to Hope. Our request there was that the province and BC Housing develop and implement a comprehensive, regionally equitable strategy for the distribution of emergency shelter beds, ensuring that all communities have available, proportional, and sustainable shelter capacity relative to their population and local service capacity. It was a very, very productive trip, and we'll see what responses we get from the ministers. Thank you, Mayor Talon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital, for that report and also for your work on the Lower Mainland Local Government Association. And it's much appreciated that you discharged that responsibility so well and so competently. Reports from councillors continuing. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. It'll be very quick. I attended the Fraser Valley Regional Library meeting. We're in the budget process again. Just seemed to me that we just went through one, now we're going through another. My goodness, time flies. Digital cost of books is going up. It's going to be curious to see what happens if Mr. Trump decides to put a tariff on books. Digital books are about 40% of the sales that go out of the library system, so we'll see how that is affected. And thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Swymans.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I'll be quick as well. On Monday the 26th, I had a meeting at the North Fraser Futures in Mission. It's a great opportunity to discuss what's happening in our village and some of the events and things that are happening. But of note, the Lights on the Lake event this year had an ask of, I think it was $1,200 from the organization, and we were only able to come up with half of that. And the organization and the committee said that likely this might be the last year. So for those who are budgeting for next year, the purpose of the North Frasers is to start and encourage and facilitate new enterprises and events. And since we're several years into the Lights on the Lake, they think that the funding from them anyways, the sponsorship from them will be ending after this year. So just a warning. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swymans. Item 13 is reports from Mayor. Mine will be brief as well. October 23rd, I, along with the Age Friendly Committee, helped host with staff the Halloween family movie night that was held here in Memorial Hall. It was a good event, crafts beforehand and a movie and popcorn and lots of chocolate and candy. And I will put a plug in for the inaugural Harrison Hot Springs Firefighters Masquerade Charity Gala on Friday night. There's still a few tickets available. It's in the Copper Room. Local musician Todd Richard and the TR Band will be performing, as well as others. It's going to be a masquerade gala event for a good cause, Agassiz Harrison Community Services, and Variety, the children's charity. So if you haven't got your tickets already, don't delay. And that takes us to item 14 on the agenda, which is reports and minutes from committees and commissions. We have a motion to adopt the minutes that we have in front of us. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? And that carries. Item 15 on our agenda, reports from staff. Item A, corporate officer, I believe this is over to you.
Thank you. Yes, I have a report regarding vote tabulator machines. Staff have begun preliminary preparations for the 2026 general local election taking place next October. Since 2018, the village has used ES&S machines to tabulate ballots, and this has always been on a rental basis. During a local election, the demand for election machines rises, impacting their availability and cost. Staff sought 3 quotes to both rent and purchase machines and are recommending that council authorize an expenditure from surplus in advance of the 2026 financial planning process in order to secure 2 machines for purchase. For any election or assent voting that the village administers in the future, there will still be costs associated with the ballots and administration. It's anticipated that the machines could be used for several future elections, making their purchase cost-effective in the long term. And so the recommendation before council is that staff be authorized to acquire 2 poll place scanner and tabulators from Election Systems and Software at a cost not to exceed $7,000 plus taxes and shipping to be funded from surplus.
Move recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Swinebenz. Any discussion on that motion? Just make a compelling case, seems to make sense in the long run. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that carries. And I will recuse myself on item B and turn it over to our Deputy Mayor, Swinebenz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Item 15B, report from council. Is that, oh, sorry. Thank you. Item 15B, do we have a report from council or from staff? Mr. Cossey?
Thank you, Your Worship. This application is for 889 Hot Springs Road. The applicant wishes to subdivide the parent parcel into 2 lots, and as part of the process, we've noticed that there's going to be a requirement for development variance permit. The parcel is zoned C2 and is located adjacent to Hot Springs Road. All of the properties that border onto this parcel are zoned for R2 activities. Parent parcel is approximately 0.40 hectares in size. The applicant is seeking to create 2 parcels, which, if approved, excuse me, will both exceed the minimum lot size requirements of 464 square meters. If approved by the village's approving officer, lot 1 would be 1,173.1 square meters, and the proposed lot 2 would be 2,871 square meters. The site is designated as low-density residential, and the continued use of the site for commercial purposes is governed by the following objectives as outlined in section 7.2 F of the current OCP, which is outlined below for your information. The site is not designated as a commercial development permit site, but the site is within the designated greenhouse gas emission development permit area. On the next page, page 28, you can see some views of the parcel under consideration, and the applicant's request wishes to vary the following C2 land use regulations as outlined in the zoning bylaw 1115-2017. For proposed lot 1, the rear setback requirements to reduce it from 6.0 meters down to 0.92 meters. The interior side setback requirements reduce it from 3.6 meters down to 0.92 meters. It's a similar process for the proposed lot 2. And to review the proposed lot layouts and variances please see the attached proposed site plan A4 dated June 26, 2025, which is outlined on page 33 of your agenda package. Now, when we're dealing with setback requirements, what are we looking at? What makes it a go or a no-go? From a staff perspective, we look at it from a health and a safety perspective. And in this case, the setback requirements would limit fire suppression, separation, and restricting access. Is that a bad thing? We don't know at this particular point in time because we don't have the professional information from the fire department. Council can request that the applicant utilize non-combustible walls. However, input from the village's fire department is recommended at this time. And with that, Your Worship, we're recommending that the application for development variance permit 0125 for land legally described as Block A, reference plan 6466, southeast quarter of section 12, Township 4, range 29, west of the 6th meridian, New Westminster District, located at 889 Hot Springs Road, be referred to the village's fire department. And before we do that, Your Worship, I understand we have the applicant is here to make a presentation this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kasi. So I'd welcome the applicant. If you'd like to say some words, feel free. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Tim Weirks. I'm one of the owners of 889 Hot Springs Road. Couple things I just wanted to point out. I know it says on the interior lot line we're trying to reduce the setback to 0.15 meters. I'm not sure if you can separate them, but the goal was around the entire perimeter of the current lot to maintain a 1 meter maintenance corridor, and then just in between the existing building and where the proposed mini storage would go to keep still 1 meter between those two buildings. The existing building is currently, the majority of it is non-combustible. There's been a few add-ons over the years. Those would be planned to be taken off to maintain a non-combustible construction. And in the future, if we would build the mini storage, we would also have non-combustible construction there as well. The reason originally why I decided to lay it out like this was if I would try to propose a mini storage in a residential area and have drive aisles around the perimeter, I just thought it was a neighborly thing to do. If it was my place, I would rather have like a concrete wall as a barrier rather than any sort of noise or seeing people moving their stuff around. And I also wanted to keep it as low as possible, so the thought was to design it with a flat roof to keep it as short as possible, single story. I know the OCP does call for residential there. I know from my perspective and from I talked to all the residents around, everybody hates someone else looking into their backyard, and they would strongly prefer something like this. Every single neighbor around the property strongly preferred this over having a 2-story or whatever would get approved for something like this in a residential situation. And another thing that I thought would be good was to keep the original building that is there. It's the first thing you see when you come into town. The village seems to lack an option for amenities like a small grocery store and things like that. So that's the thought process behind it, to have something nice to look at to kind of cover up. Not that the mini storage would not be like nicely designed, but it would be a lot more welcoming. First thing you see when you come into town, it's somewhere for people to stop, and it'll just boost everybody's like the production in the town, like create jobs. I just think it would overall be a very beneficial project that we could complete. It would serve a couple community needs, and I think it would be very beneficial to move ahead with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Works. I will go around the table then to see if there's comments or questions to Mr. Works or anything else.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just to comment, I know originally when this came before us, I think the convenience store is going to be a big plus in the community. I believe you were going to expand it more, make it more, more of a larger sort of variety of goods in the store. The building behind the actual store, this is where the problem is it? The narrowness of the buildings closer to the store, where the other buildings, is that passageway similar to the one in Agassiz, opposite the produce store? Because that seems wide enough for a fire truck or an ambulance to get through.
Throughout on the both lots, there's a drive alley to get all the way through the entire complex.
Right.
And there would also be, I don't know if you could put that up again, but there was also going to be emergency access right beside where it says Lot 1. I think it's noted there that there'd be an emergency access there. Just sometimes depends how big the fire trucks are. It would be easier for them to get in just straight in that way. I also did another one of these in Agassiz, and the way that it's built is non-combustible construction is the way to go. It's good for longevity, it keeps it looking nice, and as a benefit as far as fire goes, you can't burn it down.
Excuse me, that is the one opposite the produce store, is it? In Agassiz?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
that's
a nice,
right.
yeah, okay, that's the one I
Yeah.
was referring to. I looked at that the weekend, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Vidal?
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I certainly want to say that I'm in complete support of redevelopment of the property in some form. However, I find the applicant has requested considerable variances for interior side and rear setbacks. Setbacks are intended to provide a safe separation between buildings and neighboring properties. Reducing interior side setbacks has the potential to increase fire risks and can restrict fire apparatus accessing the buildings. I also have a level of concern that reducing the setbacks could affect adjacent property owners by reducing their privacy and potentially creating some drainage, runoff, and stormwater control. So at this point, I do support council requesting input and recommendations from our fire department prior to any further decision made by council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vidal. Any other comments or questions? I'd like to say a few words here. I'm in support of this proposal. I think just want to refer to Councillor Vidal's concerns about the setbacks. I see actually that as an opportunity. And the reason is because, as the applicant mentioned, if the storage units are being loaded from behind these buildings, then the neighbors are going to be exposed to more noise and more activity, more lights, because people are going to have to load from the back end, so to speak, between these buildings and the property line. So in speaking with a couple of the neighbors in this area, they're actually in favor of this more so. It's going to be quite a low-slung building, I believe, which is basically a little bit more than fence level, but not much more. So this might actually be a better opportunity for privacy for the surrounding buildings. As it relates to access for emergency vehicles, I'm not so sure that the back end of these buildings, it's required to have emergency access because they are going to be fire resistant. And maybe a strategically placed fire hydrant will take care of any concern about access there. So I'm in support of this, and the question is only do we refer it to the fire department tonight? And I would be in support of that as well. So if there's no other comments or questions, we'll just call the question. All in favor? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Schweinbetz. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please?
Thank you. So the motion on the table then is to have this application referred to the village's fire department. Do I have a seconder tonight? Councillor Vidal and Councillor Jackson, thank you. And we'll call the question. All in favor? And that passes. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on with the agenda. Item 16 on the agenda is bylaws. Item A, I believe we're turning this over to our planning consultant. Mr. Costley, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is to present an updated official community plan amendment bylaw to council as required due to changes of the provincial legislation and the adoption of the new Fraser Valley Regional District Growth Management Plan. As indicated below, there's reasons as to why we need to do this legislation, and based upon this requirement, the village's official community plan bylaw number 1184/2022 must be updated. In addition to the new housing policies, the current OCP bylaw must be updated by including a new regional context statement and updating the community amenity contribution section to allow for amenity cost charges instead. There are 8 goals associated with the regional growth strategy, and they are found in sequence as per the regional growth in the attached amendment bylaw. They can be found in section A of the attached bylaw, pages 42 to 51 of the agenda, and because of the length of this, they are the majority of the amendment bylaw. Out of the 12 pages in this bylaw, 10 pages are dedicated to the regional context statement. The updated housing policies are outlined in section B and C. In section B, policy 3.2.1 was added and is entitled Council's Approach to Addressing Housing Issues within Harrison Hot Springs, and this is outlined on pages 52 to 53. Section D deletes the community amenity contributions policies and replaces it with the possible creation of an amenity cost charges bylaw. And this is due to changes in provincial legislation where the community amenity contributions concept no longer exists. And if we wish to continue doing this, we need to create an amenity cost charges bylaw. And that is outlined on page 53 of the amendment bylaw. Just a little bit of a reminder from our referrals in the public input. Council authorized staff to refer the bylaw to various external agencies, internal village committees, and to set up the hosting of an open house and to set up a public hearing. So what is the rationale for the use of a public hearing and open house? While public input is also designed to safeguard our democratic principles and to ensure that planning processes are open, fair, accountable, and transparent. Public input also helps to mitigate misunderstandings, allows staff the ability to correct any prevalent misinformation and eliminate any potential conflicts as the plan is implemented. So from that, we had a various number of referral agencies that we were authorized by council to send it to. You can see that down there at the bottom of page 37 of the agenda report. Categories A to K indicate the various agencies that they went to, with most of the agencies coming back with no comment. But I draw your attention to section H of this report, Fraser Health. The comments that they provided was as if the OCP amendment was the main official community plan. The information that they had sent is valuable information, but it's not relevant to this amendment bylaw. If they had sent that type of information when we had the original bylaw in place, we could have done some changes based upon that type of bylaw. So the next go around, we'll have to clarify that for Fraser Health. The other one is item K under the Fraser Valley Regional District. The village's current and updated OCP are aligned with the goals and the policies of the Fraser Valley Regional District Regional Growth Strategy. Please note that some formatting suggestions have been suggested and have been followed up on. The Environment Committee had no comment, and the Advisory Planning Commission, under Section A of the Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw, be amended under the supplemental policies at the bottom of page 7 with the following wording. Recently adopted a village land master plan which supports the village's exploring partnerships to support affordable rental and special needs housing. Now, what we had in there was wording along the lines of just adopted a civics lands master plan. The development of these lands adjacent to the village office includes the use of a housing partnership arrangement with Agassiz Harris and Community Resources to submit a housing proposal that, if approved, will allow AHCS to build a seniors housing project on the site. I would suggest, and in my attendance at the meeting, that the wording, if approved, caused some concerns for the Advisory Planning Commission. If council wants, the amendment bylaw can be amended to include the suggested APC wording. Staff are recommending that the suggested APC wording be used and have incorporated this wording into the revised bylaw. On the date of the open house, which was held on September 3rd, 2025, a total of 22 comments were provided. They've been broken down into the following categories of 14 comments were about the Civic Lands Project, or 64%. 4 comments on the actual OCP amendment, which included 18%, or it was 18% the comments received. But these included comments of, do we really need this type of housing? 2 political comments referencing not following the provincial requirements, and 2 misinformation comments. There's been some concern about this population of 5,000, which indicates what some people feel suggests that we are not required to follow any of the SHMU requirements. That this has got nothing to do with the SHMU requirements. The small scale multi-unit housing, that's behind us already. We're exempt from that. It doesn't exist in this situation. And actually that 5,000 population is a 2-step issue. First, you got to be less than 5,000, and second, you got to be outside of the regional district's urban containment boundaries. We're not. The village is inside the urban containment boundaries, so therefore the SMU requirements are applicable. However, we have got an exemption because of the floodplain issue. So we're not in the SMU at all. And there's a confusion linking this OCP amendment with that SMU requirements, and that doesn't exist. Clear as mud? There was 1 land use planning comment received at our public hearing about making the boating area accessible. The other comments received touched on the Civics Lands Master Plan project, which is not related to this OCP amendment bylaw at all. For example, there was a discussion that said this is enabling the developers to develop the master or the seniors project. No, that wording has been is in the current OCP, and it's been in the past OCP. So it's always been there to look at the civic lands from some sort of development proposal. Some of the, sorry?
Please proceed, Mr. Costley.
Thank you. The public hearing, there was three comments that were, three letters that were received as a written submission. One of the letters was, do we have the amenities and support services in place prior to worrying about supportive or low-income housing? We need to see a red line comparison between the proposed amendment and the current official community plan. The amendment bylaw under the alphabetized headings indicated what has been deleted and what has been added, and this is illustrated further below. For example, we said section 2.4 is deleted in its entirety and the following is inserted. What this means is we took out the older regional context statements and inserted the new regional context statements. And please note that this portion of the amendment bylaw takes up a substantial portion of the amendment bylaw, and I'm sure it was very overwhelming for the public to read, because it was 10 pages out of the 12 pages of the entire amendment document. The following wording on page 9, located after the general table and before 3.3 is hereby deleted in its entirety, and the following is inserted in its place. What this means is we are proposing to update Council's non-market housing policy approach that already exists. All that has been done here is we've elaborated on what is already in the current official community plan bylaw. The other item, section 3.3C, is deleted in its entirety and the following is inserted in its place. What this means is, again, we've just updated Council's policies on how to address any non-market housing issues. In this case, again, all we've done is elaborate on what the current official community bylaw already states. Item D, section 3.4, community amenity contributions, is deleted in its entirety, and the following is inserted. As the province has formally banned the use of community amenity contributions, they have allowed municipalities to create ACCs, amenity cost charges. The structure for the use of this new financing tool to pay for these new amenities is similar to the DCC concept. One of the other parts of the letter was that the regional context statement on confirmation of the Fraser Valley Regional District acceptance or a pending review. The full regional context statement was outlined in the amendment bylaws as per pages 1 to 10 of the bylaw. With respect to the Fraser Valley acceptance or review of the village's regional context statement, this information was also made public and was provided in the public information package for the public hearing. Policy statement for the new housing direction included density targets, locations, and infrastructure implications. The OCP amendment bylaw does not address this type of housing, and the locations of non-market housing will be identified in the follow-up zoning bylaw amendment. This type of comment suggests that there has been some confusion again over what the amendment bylaw is doing. The reference to density suggests that they're mixing up this amendment with the past SMU requirements yet again. And we have to remember that the province brought in these requirements, and I'd like to reiterate that we are not part of the SMU requirements at this time. A plain language explanation on how amenity cost charges will replace community amenity contributions, what amenities are eligible, and what rates are being proposed. The listing of the potential amenities is provided in the amendment bylaw. There is a process in place that the province has created when creating the new ACCs. The new rates will be created following this new requirement. The old CAC process was to negotiate with the developer directly if they wanted to be part of the system. If they do not want to participate, then no negotiations would take place. There were no formulas to follow at that particular point in time. Clarification on what future rulings will no longer require public hearings under provincial rules once this OCP is adopted. And in order for me to talk about this, I must first draw your attention to section 4642 and 3 of the Provincial or the Local Government Act, which states the following. I draw your attention to paragraph 3 that says a local government must not hold a public hearing on a proposed zoning bylaw if an official community plan is in effect for the areas that is the subject of the zoning bylaw. The bylaw is consistent with the official community plan. The sole purpose of the bylaw is to permit a development that is in whole or in part a residential development, and the residential component of the development accounts for at least half of the gross floor area of all buildings and other structures proposed, as part of the development. The provincial requirement indicates that we cannot host a public hearing for a variety of reasons as outlined in paragraph 3. Please note the underlined words "must not" means that under certain circumstances, council cannot have a public hearing, as the Local Government Act prohibits public hearings for this project that fit within the municipality's official community plan. So overall, when we're looking at the changes, what have we actually done for the revised amendments? Well, we've done some housekeeping where we've done formatting changes to make more clearly what the village's official community plan policies and bylaws are that support the regional growth strategy. We've corrected the reference to the development procedures bylaw number 1214/2025. I apologize, I forgot that bylaw had been updated, and these are the new numbers for that bylaw. Addition of wording related to our tourism economy in support of the Fraser Valley Regional District's regional growth strategy, goal, economic strength and resilience. Amendment of the wording to section 3.3G as per the APC's recommendation, and we updated the bylaw to reflect the recent adoption of the Parks and Trails Master Plan. I'd also like to point out that pursuant to section 4776 of the Local Government Act, an OCP may be adopted at the same meeting at which it is given third reading. And with that, Your Worship, the staff recommendations are as follows: that second reading of the official community plan amendment bylaw number 1229/2025 be rescinded, and that official community plan amendment bylaw number 1229/2025 be given second reading as amended, and that official community amendment bylaw 1229/2025 be given third reading and adoption.
I'm not sure. Thank you, Mr. Kasi. Maybe we should just take them one at a time.
Move
The
second,
first?
move that second reading of Fish Community Plan be rescinded, Your Worship.
Second reading official community plan moved by Councillor Fascio to be rescinded, seconded by Councillor Swinebans. Any discussion on that motion? I don't see any. I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries. There's the next one, which is a motion that the official community plan amendment bylaw number 1229/2025 be given second reading as amended. Is there a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any discussion on that motion? I don't see any. I would certainly make a comment that I appreciate the time our advisory planning commission spent on this, and that the recommendation for clarifying the wording was recommended by staff, and glad to see that as part of the amendments. Councillor Swinebans?
Thanks, Mayor Talon. I do have some questions on this, but just for process, should we wait till the third reading?
If you have a process question, maybe you should ask it now, just in case.
I mean, I have questions about this bylaw. Should I wait until the third reading?
Corporate Officer?
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Schweinben's third reading is intended to be final reading. So if there's going to be any questions, it's better to do it at second reading, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor
Thanks, Mayor
Swinebans?
Talon. I'm glad I asked. I have some questions for Mr. Kasi. Is that okay? Thank you. Mr. Kasi, I just wanted to confirm a couple of things because there's been some information and I wasn't always sure. I'm new to this process. But first of all, does this change include any type of rezoning, either R1s to R2s or up zoning, as they call it? Is that included? Or is there anything in here that states that that's happening here?
No, Your Worship. That's a separate type of bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Kasi. Does that answer your question, Councillor Swinebans?
Yeah, thank you. And there's no changes in definitions for zoning. So there's no new densifications or different definitions for zoning that will allow anything different from what we already have.
Mr. Cossey?
Yes, there is nothing in here that's going to change anything to do with the zoning bylaw by any stretch of the imagination, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey.
Sorry,
Councillor
I got a couple
Schweinmans?
more.
Sure, go ahead.
More comments than anything. And we talked about it today, and I just wanted to, I don't think there's anything we can do about it, but just wanted to alert council, and maybe we can do something at the provincial level. But, you know, they are watering down council's ability to ask for or to insist on public hearings. In the case of, on page 40, item number 3, C and D, you know, if we literally cannot ask for a public hearing if this is included, if a residential development is included in these, and that's outlined in C and D. So I'm not so sure if that serves us as a community. Maybe that's something we need to take up through the local government association. I'm concerned that the province is taking on, you know, or thwarting our opportunity to ask developers to do certain things. So that's a bit of a concern that I have, more of a comment than a question. And on page 52, concern there, and that is near the bottom there's C, D, and E. Item C, it says identify and prioritize village-owned or underutilized sites for potential subsidized housing projects. Question for Mr. Cossey. I just wanted to make sure that going forward, council is not bound to any of this. The council of the day will still have an opportunity to authorize developments on village-owned land, irregardless of what the province is doing here.
That is correct, Your Worship. It still has to come to this table.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey.
Thank you, Mayor Talon.
Thank you. Councillor Fascio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just through you to Mr. Cossey, just a clarification. In the Local Government Act, I believe it's been there for many years, that if a development complies to the OCP and zoning, that you can waive a public hearing. Am I correct?
That is correct, Your Worship. This is not new legislation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. We have a third here, a motion to the effect of the official community plan amendment bylaw number 1229, 2025 be given third reading and adoption. A motion to that effect, moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on that motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you, Mr. Cossey, for your work on this. Uh, 16B on our agenda, and I think I'm turning this over to our corporate officer. Please take it.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Yes, I have a report regarding the business license and miscellaneous fee bylaw amendments. So this report brings together bylaw updates across 3 separate bylaws. Attached to the report are 2 amendment bylaws. One is a miscellaneous fee bylaw amendment. This bylaw amendment proposes to charge fees for false fire alarm responses in an effort to recoup some of the cost for repeated attendances for false alarms and to encourage property owners to maintain their fire alarms. This is a practice that was formerly in place. The amendment also incorporates the business license fee schedule and increases the fee for tax certificates. The second bylaw attached to the report is a business license regulation amendment bylaw. This amendment proposes to clarify the requirements for a business license for short-term rentals. It would also increase the fees for business licenses and fire inspections while also providing for a reduced business license fee for applications that are received halfway through the year. Language has also been incorporated to clarify the requirements for apartments with residential dwelling units for rent. And lastly, staff have received several inquiries from private property owners and event organizers regarding food trucks. And so staff are recommending that council consider allowing food trucks under specific circumstances, limiting them to one-day events on private property or village-sanctioned events only. That summarizes the report. There's quite a bit of information in there. I'm welcome to take any questions, but there's several recommendations that are included in the report. Before I move on to those, I just want to highlight that anytime there are changes to the business license bylaw, the village is required to publish notice of those changes and allow for written and verbal submissions to council for people who would like to provide that. So based on what the deliberations produced this evening, we'll be preparing a notice to the public for that. There are several recommendations in the report, but given that some of them are not subject to debate, I would recommend that council take them separately. So I'll read the first one, that Business License and Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 1231, 2025 be introduced and given first reading.
So move, your worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that has first reading. Corporate Officer next, please.
The next motion is that Business License and Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 1231, 2025 be given second and third readings.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Thank you. Discussion on that, and I think we'll probably have a little bit here. Councillor Faccio.
Thank you, worship. Page 56 and 76. We'll do 56 first. Where's 56? Oh, right. Regarding the inquiries that we received regarding the food trucks for parties or private property for events, this is a very touchy subject. I can appreciate what's in here and I understand it, but I think we have to be extremely careful here because we do have a very large commercial base in the village and we have to protect these people. We did have some few years back where carts ended up on private land, such as the front of the public pool. For one, that had to be removed because it had no business license or shouldn't have been there. And then we had, unfortunately, had one turn up in Randall Park many years ago. So I have no problems with the fees, that's fine. It's just that I think there should be some flexibility in this cart situation. And page 76, this I would find would be fine in probably the campgrounds if they wanted to have something special, and some do during the time of the year. They have a get-togethers, whatever. That would be, that's off the road, not on the village roads. And also, if somebody in their private home had room on their driveway to pull one of these carts up and have whether it be for a wedding or an anniversary or whatever, I see no problem with that. That's where I'm coming from, be a little bit flexible. But I don't understand this word here, except on private property, except for one day. Now, private property is very broad. That I think that has to be, but to me, private property is somebody's actual property, not, I mean, we could say the land that's being used by Stahalis, that could be used for that's private, that could be used for the, for having these food carts there and have an event on that land. So I'm rather concerned about the wording on that one. And what is this other party granted by the village pursuant to any other bylaws? I'm not sure what that means. So if I could have clarification on that. And of course, these would not be, unless we have a special event like we did just after the pandemic when we had a village get-together on our vacant land. That was entirely different. That's for a special occasion. I can understand that. But these carts, if they're going to be used for a special event of some kind, it should be very carefully thought out, because the businesses in the community could be affected if this happened in the busy months and where they're trying to make the best they can to get through to the next year. So I'm trying to get clarification on what private property means and what is this pursuant to any other bylaw on that. But other than that, I think it should stay either campgrounds or off-road on somebody's private home. That's what that means, that's fine. But not on any other properties that would be taking business away from our already business community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Perhaps someone from staff could help clarify what the private property means in this context to start with, please.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to Councillor Fascio. Yeah, the private property portion is intended to be any property that's not publicly owned. So any property that is owned by another entity. So like you mentioned, the temporary use permit parking lot down on by the boat launch. However, it would be restricted to one-day event. And the second portion of that, as permitted by any permit or permission granted by the village, was intended to capture special event permits that are issued. That would have to be part of the application process and approved by the village, which are normally short-term events. They're not something that would have a long-term food truck set up. The other aspect that was intended to capture was here at Memorial Hall. People rent the hall for a wedding or an event to be able to have a food truck for that, when typically they're bringing in catering companies anyways. The other aspect about the food trucks that I just want to touch on quickly is they will require a fire inspection as well. So that could be something that is a bit of a natural deterrent for people to have to go through that process. It would have to be cost effective for them to do that. So that is another way that we can manage that as well, to ensure that those food trucks are not taking over and setting up for days on end along the beachfront, which I think is the main concern. Thank you.
One
Go ahead,
question, Your
Councillor
Worship.
Fascio, yeah.
Now, very good point just brought up at the corporate office of Memorial Hall. Now, we had a problem here several years ago when there was an event in this hall and the food truck was set up here on Maple Street. Well, anybody walking down the road were coming in and purchasing food as well. But the event was for the hall, but they were still purchasing food from there. So I can't see that as, to me, that is open to the public at large, not just the event that's actually happening in the hall, unless they pull the truck into this private piece that we have on the side here, that I can understand. But, I mean, depending on the size of the food truck, I mean, yeah, we do have our catering companies that come here with their trucks and everything else. They park on the back here. But if something happened to be set up on a Maple Street here, well, it's open to the general public, so I would have a concern from that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Some clarification. If I understood, it might be permitted with special events, and those could include Sasquatch Days, lights on the lake, bands on the beach, paddling regattas, any of those things. And I'm presuming those trucks don't need to be parked on private land. They would be parked somewhere convenient for the people that are at that special event. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. That would, if it was an event like that, for sure. But to speak to exactly what Councillor Fascio is speaking to, the policy after this is updated needs to be updated as well. Our special event permit, which is going to require council's support. and perhaps add to, like specifically to Memorial Hall, we could ask them to provide a site plan where they plan to put the food truck, and requested they keep it, like you say, in the back corner. That's exactly what I would envision, and not have it out front and look like it's out there to be a vendor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's other comments. I do share some of Councillor Fascio's, I guess, unsettled. I'd like to, while I certainly want to see events promoted and have a positive experience for visitors, I do want a level playing field, or sort of balance that with the interests of the existing restaurants and other types of proprietors in town, and not create a system of disadvantage. Councillor Schweinbeck, oh, sorry, Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I do think that food trucks could have a place here in the village, but only in the off-season. And what came to my mind today was that, you know, perhaps looking at some kind of a winter festival or something down where our outdoor rink is, and that could help to promote the our outdoor rink. I don't know that we would be able to do much to restrict on private property. But I do think there is a place for food trucks here during some special events in the off-season. And, you know, I see that period maybe from, you know, January through till, you know, Family Day weekend or something like that, just off the top of my head. I would not like to see food trucks here at special events during our tourism season. That is unfair to our businesses, and we need to be in a position to support our businesses. Thank you, Mayor Tallon.
Thank you, Councillor Vidal. Councillor Schweinbeck.
Thanks, Mayor Tallon. Yeah, I'm torn with this as well. Ultimately, I think we need to refer this for comment to the Chamber of Commerce also. But just with regards to food trucks, you know, I remember on our first summer at the chocolate store here, a fellow was on a cycle, and he was selling ice cream bars out of his cooler, and wanted to do that all summer, and came to us and asked for our support. But you know, the businesses along the waterfront here, and all the businesses, I think we pay 3.8 times the tax rate that the residents pay. We have a 3-month season. We rely on paddling regattas and Sasquatch days to have really big days to help pay the bills and to pay our staff. And without those really big days, it's really difficult to put a good year together. They really make a difference. Even those 1 or 2 days per month, they make a difference. So to have competition from people who don't pay taxes that come in for a day or two to take the cream off the top, if you will, in terms of profits, I would rather refer this back to staff and see if there's some compromise that we can have. Maybe they aren't allowed down in the waterfront area. I agree, it's nice to have a taco truck if you're having a wedding down on Alder or at the campground or something like that. I think that's fine. But down here, to compete with the people who are day in and day out trying to provide our goods and services to our community and to our tourism, I don't think I would support that. That'd be a difficult one.
Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. Food trucks are a business. They're in business to make money. They are not going to go to communities that don't want them. Why would they come out here if we don't want them? That's why I think we're chasing shadows here. It isn't a big problem. If some campground decides that they want to have food brought in, they could call a restaurant from some other part of of the municipality, and they could come in and do all their food there. We can't stop that. We can control food trucks if you want, but I think this is not a big issue. You know, they're not going to be here if we don't want them. And we want a place that's welcome. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I certainly echo Councillor Swinban's suggestion that referral to the Chamber of Commerce would be valuable. I think we can also pose the question to some of the larger events that happen annually to find out if the lack of food trucks is an impediment for hosting their events here. The criticism can be, I would have loved to have had lunch, but it would have taken too long. Or I was unable to get a seat because it was rush hour kind of thing at the restaurant. So I'm looking here for process guidance. I know the motion is second and third readings, and I think what I'm getting sense from council is that a little more work is needed to clarify a few things and perhaps talk to some other agencies before advancing this. So should we walk away from this motion, go to second reading, and I'm mindful of the publishing notice as well and how that fits into this process. If I could get some advice on that, please.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. You have two options for reading of the bylaw at this point. You can, there's a motion on the floor for second and third readings. If you'd like to make a motion to amend that and remove third reading from that motion, you can do that, or as you suggested, you can allow the motion to fail and a new motion for just second reading. And then I would request a separate motion for any referral agencies, including if it's to be referred back to staff. If it is to be referred back to staff, I would recommend that it be referred back to staff first to clarify those portions of the food truck, or suggest some alternative options before referring it to any external agencies, so that they have a clear understanding of what the proposal is. Thank you.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. With that and the comments we've heard here, it's my suggestion that if this motion fails, we put forward two new motions. One is to refer it back to staff with the balance of this discussion, and report back to council on what they would recommend, having heard us tonight, and then a separate motion seeking input from the Chamber of Commerce and potentially other annual event hosts or organizers to help inform, so we get perhaps a more complete picture to us at that time. Looking around the room, does that make sense if we go like that? So if this motion fails, I'll put forward motions to refer to staff, and then a subsequent motion to seek input from the Chamber of Commerce. A second motion for second reading, and then we can, so second reading, and then, okay. I'll clarify that on some advice here. If the motion fails, I'll put a motion forward to give the Business License Amendment 2031 second reading only, and a referral back to staff, and a subsequent motion to seek input from those other agencies or outside influences. And yeah, wait back for a report after that. So don't second anything yet. We have to vote on the motion that's on the floor, and if it fails, we'll proceed that way. So all in favor of the motion on the floor for second and third reading of this business bylaw? Opposed? And we are unanimously opposed. I'll put a motion forward that Business Bylaw License and Regulation Amendment Bylaw 2031 be given second reading. A motion. Motion to that effect from Councillor Vital and seconded by Councillor Fascio. Discussion on that. Councillor Schweinman.
One other quick thing, Mayor Tallon, if I could. On page 75, item 5, we have prohibited door-to-door sales of any type. as a career salesperson. I find this difficult, to tell you the truth. So Girl Guide, cookies, Boy Scouts, charities, door-to-door gutter cleaners, I say, why not? If, we're trying to encourage young people to get out and face people, to build their skills in terms of communication and sales. I don't think door-to-door sales should be excluded. If there's a business plan to be here, I don't think we should close the door to them in our village. So I hope that staff could consider rethinking that one as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. There's a lot in this bylaw, and I can see it's going to be a lengthy conversation when we get further down the road on that. Any further discussion on the amendment on second reading of this bylaw? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that passes unanimously. I'll put forward a final motion that this bylaw amendments be referred back to staff, and following their review, canvass the Chamber of Commerce and host agencies that do special events on a regular basis. Seconded by Councillor Fascio. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that also carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. That's going to be an interesting conversation as we go forward. Touches on a lot of things. Do we need the fee amendment once? Corporate Officer, I'll look back to you on that one.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Yes, there's two motions there. I would recommend, because they kind of go hand in hand, to just keep the miscellaneous fee bylaw, amendment bylaw at second reading as well.
So could I have a motion that the miscellaneous fee and amendment bylaw number 1232-2025 be given first reading? Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinmans. All in favor? And that has first reading. And then a second motion here that miscellaneous fee amendment bylaw number 1232-2025 be given second reading. Motion to that effect. Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Schweinmans. Any discussion on that motion for second reading? Councillor Schweinmans.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Just a question for staff. If I recall correctly, our business license included fire inspection. Has that been separated now?
Corporate Officer.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Schweinmans. On page 79, there's a fire inspection fee of $85. The recommendation is to increase it from 75 to 85.
Oh, yeah, my impression was, my wife always paid the bills, but I always thought that the business license included the fire inspection fee. I may be wrong. So this is nothing new, just an increase of $10. Okay.
Yes, you have it correct. That's what's in the draft proposed bylaw. Any further discussion on the motion on second reading? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries as well. Thank you, everyone. 17 is new business, and I don't believe we have any new business tonight. Are there any notices of motion this evening? I don't see any of that. And item 19, question period for items relative to the agenda. Is there anyone here tonight that wants to comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. John Allen, 398 Hot Springs Road. I was intrigued and delighted to hear the presentation of search and rescue, because the whole traumatic experience of having a recently drowned person lost in the lagoon or on our regular beaches, which also happens, is very distressing for everybody involved. And I have been involved in a lot of those in my capacity as mayor. One of the distressing parts is that while you may know exactly where the victim is, and while your search and rescue may be capable of retrieving the victim, or other people around are capable of retrieving the victim, the RCMP will take over the scene and will tell you that you're not allowed to retrieve the victim, that you must wait for the RCMP dive team to make it to Harrison, which might be the next day, which leaves me standing there on the beach with a grieving family and a dead family member in the water. So unless you can change the rules about the RCMP having complete control and demanding that only their dive team can recover the body, and also the rule that says you have to wait for the coroner to show up at Harrison, all this equipment, great though it may be, is not going to help. In fact, it might exacerbate the situation, because now you'll be saying, well, we have him on camera, we know where he is, he's right there, can't we take him out and do something dignified? The rules say you can't do that. So I just want council to be aware that there is that problem, and it's a very distressing problem. And the other part of that is that while you wait for the RCMP dive team or the coroner to show up, you still have families and kids and people jumping in and out of the lagoon, despite the fact that there's a body there. And that, to me, is a bit, I don't know how to describe that. It's distressing. I think at one point there was an attempt to close the lagoon while the body was recovered recently, and that didn't go very well either. So I think that all this is fine, and I think it's the application of the technology is wonderful, but it needs some changes at a higher level of government, and this council could, in fact, advocate for some change in the protocol that is imposed by the RCMP at a drowning scene to try and relieve the trauma to the bystanders, the people involved, the families, etc. I just like council to be aware of that, and if you can do something, it will make it possible for a quick retrieval and a more dignified dealing with the situation. I would certainly encourage you to do so, and I'm asking if you will consider doing that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your views. Are there any questions for anyone online?
If there's anybody on Zoom, please use the raise the hand function. There are no questions, Your Worship.
Motion to adjourn by Councillor Jackson and seconded by Councillor Fascio. Discussion. All in favor? And we are adjourned this evening. Thank you, everyone.